Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
One of the things I share from time to time is that I played college football. So years ago, back in the early 80s, it was small college, Division III. Not a great conference, not necessarily a great program, but I played college football. Tiny Beloit College, Beloit, Wisconsin, about 1,200 students. I'm proud of the fact I played college football. I learned a lot about myself. I was certainly undersized for college football, my position, and that's neither here nor there. But I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about life through that. It was a big commitment. It was, you went to school, and there were still things you did fun, but football took up a lot of time. Not the whole year, but a lot of the year. You were either in it and practicing and playing games and losing weekends to travel and whatnot. But anyhow, played college football. Again, lots of lessons. One of the lessons I remember, distinctly remembering this, was going in for a film session. It was one we had generally had film during the season, either Sunday afternoon or Monday in lieu of practice. They generally tried to give you a day off. Usually it was a Sunday, so you might be there on a Monday afternoon. So you'd go and you'd review the last game's film, and then you would look at film for the upcoming game. And I remember the coach coming in, Coach Ed DeGeorge. Shout out to Coach Ed DeGeorge. He coached football there 29 years, and he was the athletic director. His son is now the athletic director. The DeGeorge family is kind of a staple at Beloit College. But at any rate, Coach DeGeorge, relatively religious, he was Catholic, went to Mass. And I remember him coming into a session and just saying, I realize that there's a portion of the time you guys aren't listening to me. I'm up here talking to you. I'm talking about the next team. I'm talking about the last game and the mistakes we're making, and you're tuning me out. And he wasn't being critical of us. He wasn't being critical of us at all. What he did was he shared his own vulnerabilities. He says, I was in church either earlier that day or the day before. I was in church, and during the pre-sermon, known as the homily in Catholic terms, during the sermon, I found my mind wandering. Here I am, a devout Catholic, going to church, trying to do the good thing, and I should be listening. But his mind is wandering, and he didn't necessarily share about what he was thinking about. It was probably football. It was probably his players. He had 3 boys. It was probably one of his kids. It was something that needed to be fixed around the house. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But the point is that he admitted to us. He says, I know my mind was wandering. And if that's happening to me in a situation where it's important to him. It was important to him. Might not be important to you, but for him it was important. If his mind's wandering, then he had to wonder about his players and if his players were listening. That has stuck with me, and I can be totally honest in saying that sometimes when I'm talking to people, all the time when I'm talking to people, my mind will wander. I'll be at a networking event and somebody will be talking to me, and I'll be just, they'll say something and it'll trigger a thought. It's like, oh, that's right. I need to go order paper, or I need to follow up with this person, or I need to do this or that. I'm not a horrible person, right? I'm just a person, because that's what our mind does. I ran across a study that talked about this, and I am just a normal person. Our minds wander. You're listening to this program. driving in your car, you're thinking about, okay, what exit should I be going off on? And certainly all the words are going into your mind, but you're not necessarily listening to every single second of this program or every single second of any program. Even when you're going to that movie that you totally want to be at, your mind will wander. And that's, in in the research out there, I guess, psychology research, one of the terms they have for it is mental drift. Um, and they looked at data from 10,000 people who took part in 68 different studies. Looking at all these sorts of things, and you know, our minds are taken off task. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. It doesn't, you know, you want people to pay attention to you. You want to pay attention. You know what? You got a brain. It's not, it's just that's how it's hardwired. Why? I don't know. I don't know if anybody knows at this point, but it's just that way. And, you shouldn't beat yourself up. I try not to beat myself up. I do want to lean into what people have to say. And I think there are some things that you can do. Certainly, I can do if I'm sitting here on Zoom and talking to somebody. Taking notes helps me, but still, my mind will glitch off into other things. It's just that's just the way it is. And I've often said that if the human brain were like a computer, if I could get my brain to totally focus on connecting all the people I know and sorting out all the resources, all the information, all the connections that various people had, and sort that against all the need that those same people have. So kind of cross-referencing the resources and the information with the need, it would just be it would be an incredible dump of information. Okay, I need to connect this person to that person, and I need to do this, and I need to do that. And obviously, if my brain were a computer, if it were ChatGPT, it would just do it lightning fast, and then just execute on all these introductions. And wow, it would just create a lot of value, a lot of good. My brain doesn't work that way. I'll talk to somebody, and it's like, oh, geez, they need this help. I can't think of anybody. I can't think of anybody in that moment, but I can think of these other things. I know I need to, again, get paper or whatever. Um, and then later, I'll be having a totally separate conversation, totally unrelated conversation, and my mind will go to, oh my gosh, there's a perfect connection here. So, the point I want to make in this conversation about my coach, Ed DeGeorge, about that experience in college football, you know, being in church and trying to listen, or listening to a speech or going to a movie. The point is this. Actually, it's 2 points. The first point is that if you find your mind wandering, it's okay. I mean, try to get yourself back on track. Try to focus, because the person talking to you, that they deserve that. But your mind does this. Your mind, it's something they say, it's someone who walked by, it can be a lot of different things, and your mind is working in multiple directions, subconsciously and consciously. It's okay. It's okay when it happens to you. But at the same time, and this is the second point, as you talk to other people, remember their mind is wandering too. Their mind is wandering. And, so you might be going off on this 5-minute just monologue, just perfectly talking about your business, and they may not catch the most important thing. And then if they ask the question again, don't get upset with them. Their mind wandered. They missed it. I run to people all the time. I've already told them that. Tell them again. Just go ahead, tell them again. As soon as they say, yeah, I've already heard that, then they've heard it. But go ahead and tell them again. And just let them know, if they say, I've already heard it, I've already heard it. You just tell them, okay, fine. Wasn't sure. Wanted to make sure. But the other thing you can do as you're talking to people is maybe not go off on that 5-minute monologue. Maybe people don't want to hear it. And I have to wonder myself, here I am, I'm almost 10 minutes into this particular episode. What all have you been thinking about while I'm talking? Hopefully listening to a good chunk of this, but I totally understand if it's made you think about other things, about your experience in college, your experience in church, your experience being at a networking event and talking to somebody. Our minds wander. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. It's going to happen. You can take notes. You can lean in. There's all sorts of things. It's just part of human nature. You just need to accept it.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.